Hey guys, we've been asked to do a 30-minute follow-along mobility routine for the whole body, but what we wanted to do is to have different levels so different kinds of people can follow along. So Callum's going to do the harder version, I'm going to do the easier version, and we're going to do it at the same time. And just pause it if you need to go over one more lot of the exercises, but you should be able to just follow along in real time with us.
So we're going to be performing neck cars, okay? We're going to do one with the band. I'll be using the band, and Hallie will do it without a band. So for neck cars, she's going to engage her core, so pulling her ribs in, engaging everything here. She's got her arms nice and straight. She's just got her hands out like this. She's keeping them nice and straight, creating as much tension throughout the body as she can. And then to begin with, she's just going to look down. And then she's going to look over here as if she's looking over to her shoulder. Now, when she gets to this point, she's going to tilt her ear over as if she's trying to remove water from her ear. Then, yeah, she's extending. She's going all the way over to the other side. Tilting that ear back over, chin's at her shoulder, and she's coming back into the middle position. That's one rep. Now she's going to go in the opposite direction and do the exact same. I'm going to do the exact same, but using a resistance band. Again, this is just going to stretch out the muscles a little bit more, so I'll feel more of a stretch throughout the neck and throughout the shoulders. Shall we do a few reps? So we're going to do 3 rotations. Okay, next we're going to do a neck stretch. So Hallie's going to place her, I'm just going to turn you around, Hallie's going to place her arm behind her back, okay, and hold on to that. And then she's going to move, she's stretching this side here, she's going to move her neck or her head in the opposite direction so that she can feel the stretch across this side here. Okay, and she's going to go for 10 reps. So just back and forward, nice and controlled, 10 of those. I'm going to use a resistance band. So next up we're doing shoulder cast to work her shoulder joint for its full range of motion. So she's doing this upright, she's taking a nice deep breath, okay, filling up her diaphragm, creating tension. She's got her arm nice and straight, she's creating a fist to help create more tension. And then she's coming up into shoulder flexion, but slightly inwards into shoulder adduction up there, all the way up into the overhead position here. Okay, once you hit a block and you can go no further, you're going to start rotating out, still moving back the way. She's coming back behind her here. She's internally rotating until she comes into shoulder extension, keeping that nice and high behind her body, and she's coming in to the side here. Then she's going to do this in reverse. So shoulder extension, pushing back until she hits that block. She's rotating out. She's bringing her thumb up towards her ear. She's rotating back in, coming in the way to shoulder adduction again, and back down into the start position here. That's one rep. Okay, Hallie's going to continue with this. We're going to do 3 reps on each arm. I'm going to do the exact same movement, but I'm going to use a wall block. So I'm going to use the wall to block the movement and make it even more challenging. So next up, we're going to be doing swimmer hovers. Hallie's going to lay down on the floor. When she's in this position here, she's driving her feet down into the ground, just helps create tension. Okay, she's squeezing her glutes, she's got a posterior tilt in her pelvis there, so she hasn't got any arching in her lower back. She's going to place her hands on the back of her head. Okay, to start the movement, she's going to lift her elbows up as high as she can, pulling the scapula together as high as she can. Now she's going to extend her arms into the overhead position, into shoulder flexion. Now she's coming back as she internally rotates, coming round into shoulder extension. She's going to try and place her hands, there she goes, as high up on her lower back as she can. Her elbows come down to the ground, scapula come apart to do this. She reverses the movement, bringing the scapula together. Good, elbows up nice and high, extend. And then she's rotating the shoulders, coming back up into shoulder flexion, places her hands on the back of her head, and elbows go down. That's 1 rep.
Okay. So for the swimmer hovers, you're going to drive your feet into the ground, same thing. Tuck hips under, squeeze glutes, push ribs down, arms overhead into shoulder flexion, resting overhead though. From here, you're going to raise the arms off of the floor. And then you're going to keep the hands nice and high while your elbows come back into your back pockets and you thoracically extend and come up at the same time. From here though, not from your lumbar spine. And then you're going to go forward, rest on the floor, and again engage, coming up, thoracically extending, elbows up, back.
Okay, so next up we're doing kneeling scapular CARS, and Hallie's in the kneeling position here. She's engaging her core, she's creating as much tension throughout the body as she can. She's going to put her arms out straight in front of her. Okay, and to begin this movement, she's going to protract her shoulders, so pushing forward as much as she can. She's going to elevate, lift them up, retract, pull the scapula back, depress as if she's trying to put the scapula into the back pocket. She's going to do that again. So protract, elevate, retract, depress. And when she's doing this, she's trying to make sure that the movement is coming from her scapula and her spine isn't moving when she's doing this. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same movement, but I'm going to do this in quadruped position, so on the floor. So this is a little bit more advanced.
Okay, so next we are doing global spinal CARS. We have two variations. The easier variation with Hallie up against a wall using a foam roller as a block to stop movement in the hips. And the other is slightly more difficult, and that is me using a medicine ball.
Okay, and for this version I'm going to be using a ball for the global spinal CARS. I'm just going to hold on to this, squeeze it, create as much tension as I can. From here, I'm just flexing my spine forward as much as I can, and then twisting, moving over, my shoulder over again as if I'm trying to take water out of my ear, and I'm extending the thoracic, and I'm moving all the way over to the other side. I'm rotating here, bringing it back, over, and in towards the middle, and then I'm going to do that in the opposite direction. So turning, so next we're going to be doing the Jefferson curl. Hallie's going to be doing it without weight. I'm going to be using a weight for this. I'm just going to demonstrate how to perform this with Hallie. So she's standing upright. You can have a narrow stance, or you can have your feet slightly hip width apart. Okay, from here she's going to keep her legs nice and straight. She's going to start by flexing her neck, so she's bringing her chin in. Okay, and now she kind of follows down with the rest of her spine, so she's flexing bit by bit as she segments down her spine. Okay, she keeps going, that's good, all the way down. She's allowing that back to bend. This is all about allowing the spine to bend when we're doing this. So she's going as far as she can. She's keeping her head tucked under. Once she reaches the end of her range, she's just going to come up in reverse. Now starting from the bottom, she's bending that spine. She's pulling through here. She's pulling the abs in nice and tight. And she's coming all the way back up, nice and controlled, into that start position. We'll just go for one more rep. Yeah. So her chin comes down, her shoulders come forward. You can see she's flexing her upper back to begin with. Mid back, lower back, she's aiming for the ground. I'm going to do the exact same, but I'm going to use weights. Okay, so now we're going to work lateral flexion of the spine. Hallie's going to do it without any weight. This is an easier version. I'm going to add a resistance band for mine.
So if you are bending towards the right, then your back leg will be behind you here. And this would be the harder version. What we are doing is we're going to actually kind of weave our hands. So one arm's going down while the other one's going up and across. And we're going to do reps like this. So we're aiming for 10 reps like this. If you find this super easy, you can have your arms overhead, which increases the degree of control that you have to have. And Callum is going to show the even harder version.
So for my variation, I'm going to have both arms up overhead. I've got the resistance band attached to a kettlebell down here. Just make sure it's heavy enough so that it doesn't knock over when you're doing the exercise. Just going to go into the overhead position, exact same foot position as Hallie. So I'm putting that leg behind me. Arms are straight and I'm flexing my spine sideways as far as I can, back up until I'm straight. I'm going for 6 reps.
Okay, so the easy version of thoracic rotation, we're going to be in half kneeling stance. So knee in line with hip, nice 90-degree angles. You're going to start with your hands out in front of you, and you are going to follow your hand all the way around with your eyes, and try not to rotate the body like this. So you're keeping your ribs and your hips where they are. A tiny bit of rotation spine, but try to minimize it. And we are going to go for 6 reps, but this is 1 rep. So we are doing 5 more of these while Callum shows the harder version.
So the harder version is going to be thoracic rotation, but from quadruped position. So we're just basically going to be on our hands and knees. I'm going to put my forearm on the ground. I'm going to place my hand on the back, just in case you can't see me, on the back of my neck here, okay? And I start with my elbow on the ground. And then from here, I'm trying to bring this elbow up as high as I can, rotating through the thoracic until I'm at the top position and back down. That's 1 rep, and I'm going to go for 6 of these.
Okay, so next we are doing quadruped hip CARS. We're going to start with our knees underneath our hips and our hands underneath our shoulders. And to begin with, you're going to try to limit any movement in the spine and hips. So that's going to stay straight. Don't worry if you have a little bit of movement, but just try to concentrate on reducing it. To begin with, we are going into hip flexion, so knee is coming up as far as you are able to control. Then we're coming out to the side and raising our heel, rotating our knee over something imaginary back behind us, going into hip extension and coming back into the start position. We are then doing this in reverse, up into hip extension, heel up, knee up, going over something imaginary, out to the side, and then back into hip flexion. And that is 1 rep. We are going to do 3 on each side.
So I'm going to be doing a standing variation of the hip cast. Usually you would hold on to something to limit any movement and help you balance, but I don't have anything, so I'm just going to be doing it freestanding. I may be a little bit wobbly. So to start with, we're going to bring always keep this knee bent at a 90-degree angle. Okay, so as I come up, I'm externally rotating, so I'm trying to lift my heel up the way, and I'm lifting my knee up into flexion as well. I come up as high as I can until I can't go any further. From here, I'm then moving out to the side, trying to limit any movement here. Okay, so I'm moving out as far as I can. Now I'm internally rotating in the hips, so I'm lifting my heel up. This knee has to drop a little bit, but not too much, okay? Keeping that heel nice and high. I'm coming out, my hips and hip abduction here as I come back behind the body into hip extension. Okay, I've still got that 90-degree angle on my knee, and then I'm going to come back out, so abduct the hips as much as I can, keeping that heel high until I feel that block. Now I'm rotating, bringing that heel back up into hip external rotation, but coming back round into hip flexion, knee nice and high, ankle nice and high, and then lower the leg into the start position.
Okay, so here we are just doing some rotations from the 90-90 position. Me and Hallie are both doing the same variation here, which is quite easy. We've got our hands behind our back, but to make this more difficult, if you've got the range of motion and the strength, you can actually take your hands off the ground and hold them in front of you. We're going to perform 6 slow and controlled reps.
To grab, we're doing ankle curls by the way. So we're doing ankle curls, 3 reps, one direction, 3 reps the other direction. You're going to put your arm underneath your leg, and you are then going to hold onto your arm for comfort and push into your shin so you can feel your shin bone moving. You're going to try to reduce that happening. So you are isolating at the ankle. From here, we are going to draw a circle with the foot, but of course, if I do it as wide as possible, my shin is moving around. So what I'm going to try to do is just isolate it without the shin moving. And that may mean a very small circle, or it may mean certain regions of your circle don't really move much. That's okay. We are just focusing on control and drawing as large a circles as you can control, and it doesn't matter if it's not too large yet. 3 reps in one direction and then 3 reps in the other direction on both feet. If you guys found this useful, please comment below and let us know what you liked so we can make more of them. Alternatively, check out our website for our 12-week mobility programs. So, this one.